Earlier today, I was talking to a friend who came from a small city in Colorado about our childhood dreams, and somewhere along the conversation, we talk about places we have always wanted to live in.
Let me guess. She wanted to live in sunny Los Angeles in hopes of becoming a social media star.
No way, why would anyone do that? Besides, it is way too expensive to live here. There are definitely some places cheaper and better to live.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense for her. If I were to live in a small city all my life, I would want something with a different vibe. Especially now that the media would highlight big cities such as LA or New York City.
What do you guys prefer? I'm definitely sick of living here, which is why I'm planning to move out soon. Southern California is way too expensive for a recently graduated college student.
Really? Where would you go? Welcome to Educashional, a podcast for college students by college students about the basics of finance and how to survive in a world where money controls our lives. You're here with Kim,
Angelia.
And Arggin for today's episode, So Long, SoCal.
Wait, where are you going, Arggin?
I'm not going anywhere yet, but we should talk about the practicality of moving outside of SoCal and whether or not it is a good option for students post-graduation.
Why do we want to talk about that?
Well, because a lot of people don't think about the possibility of leaving California after college, but it could be a very smart financial and enjoyable option for many people.
That makes sense. As a college student myself, I definitely want to learn about all of my options, especially the ones we might benefit the most from.
Same here. Especially nowadays, we seem to wonder specifically if moving to other states in the US would actually be more affordable.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good thing that we looked at the financial averages of the nation in comparison with that of California, researched why it costs so much to live here, along with a couple interviews.
Hopefully with that info, we can show everyone that moving outside of California after college is not only a viable option, but it might even be a better decision.
So let's get started.
Let's start with the most important aspect of living outside of SoCal, the cost of living. It is a well-known fact that living in Southern California, especially Los Angeles, is very expensive.
Let's talk to our special guest, Madison Young, who is currently looking for places to live out of state.
Last week, we were in our College 1 class where we interviewed Madison, one of our classmates. Hi, Madison. So what would you estimate to be the average rent in Southern California?
Well, in California, especially in Pasadena, that could be like $2,000 a month in rent. It's pretty expensive here.
Yeah, that sounds about right, but how much do you think it would cost to live in Illinois?
Well, I know that it's definitely going to be cheaper. I just don't really know how much. I've never specifically looked at Illinois. I would say maybe around for a month, I don't know, 700?
Well, I don't actually know, so let's find out. So go ahead and look it up.
All right. Let's just look at this one right here.
Okay.
That's $1,000 a month. That's a pretty big place, actually. 3 beds and 1 bath for $1,000. That's pretty good. This one's $1,200 for 5 beds. Oh my gosh, that's like an actual house. This one's $800 a month for 1 bed, 1 bath. That sounds pretty good. Let's see. This one's a full 2-story house for $2,000 a month. Wow, that's kind of sad that here it's that much for 1 bedroom. Oh, this one's $500 a month for 1 bed, 1 bath, and it has electricity and gas. That's really good.
How does that make you feel?
Kind of sad. If I wanted to stay in California, I'd be paying 2 or 3 times as much for half the space here, which is kind of wasteful considering out in Illinois, I'm pretty sure it's pretty nice there too.
So just based off that info, would you consider moving?
I don't know. Because, when you're paying for an apartment, you're also paying for, the neighboring areas around it, not just for the house itself. And there's just a lot of a lot more entertainment and things to do around this area, especially since we're, right near LA, Hollywood.
Wow, the cost of 1-bedroom apartment here is equivalent to a 3-bedroom apartment in Illinois.
I didn't realize it was that big of a difference.
I've also noticed that Southern California has a lot of tourist and entertainment places. Every corner of the road has at least one restaurant. This much distraction would make it really hard to save money as well.
Is that why living here is so expensive?
Well, that definitely contributes. However, the main reason would be overpopulation. According to The Economist, this overpopulation has led to problems for California. There are so many people in the state that the top 1% tend to be prioritized over the rest.
True. California doesn't build as many houses as they used to. The state is having a hard time keeping residents happy and businesses growing.
Okay, what exactly is the cost of living here in comparison with somewhere else in the United States?
I think it's very tricky for us since we are very used to having our parents pay for most of our bills. We would have to think very critically about this one.
Yeah, living in Southern California is very expensive. US News found that the median household cost is $526,214 in Los Angeles. But in Miami, for example, it's almost half of that cost at $247,113. Not to mention, you also have to pay for electricity, gas, phone bills, and internet access.
Don't forget about the food as well as entertainment.
Wow, I never thought it would be that much to think about.
You have to consider the minimum wage in other states too. To afford the cost of living in each state, you have to be paid enough. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, but a lot of states have raised it. New York, for example, has raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. This is really appealing to a lot of post-college graduates.
So, with all this info, I think that moving out of Cali is very appealing.
See, I told you.
I also spoke to someone who moved out of California after college for many of the reasons we're talking about.
Really? Who?
Her name is Jeannie Brown. She currently lives in Philadelphia, but went to UCLA. Hi, Jeannie. So what is your story behind moving outside of California?
I was born in Burbank and lived out in the San Fernando Valley, and I grew up out there. I went to UCLA, and then I decided I really hadn't been outside of California much. I became very interested in working in undeveloped countries that I had visited on my travels. So I moved at that point to Washington, D.C. to try to get into that kind of work. And then that led from one thing to the next, and I haven't really been in California for a long time now.
So when you moved out of California, where exactly did you go?
At first, I traveled for 1 year, and I went to all around the world. I had a ticket that went around the world, and I spent, really a year going to different places. I came back and decided that I wanted to pursue something other than what I had been doing before in California, and that was working internationally, basically. So, and most of the work, international work, is in the East. So it's kind of one of the reasons I went there was because that's where the jobs were related to what my interest in doing something new.
You now live in Philadelphia and have lived in various places outside of California. How would you compare your quality of life in those other states, other countries, to California in regards to your expenses?
I couldn't even afford to move back to California if I wanted to, because the cost of living has gotten so high there. And that's a real problem for me. My quality of life is much better here than it would be there because of the cost of living there now. It's hard for those of us who grew up there to get back in. I also very much like where I'm living. It's very livable. There's not a lot of the traffic issues, not a lot of all the issues that California is experiencing right now. So in that respect, I'm not unhappy at all here. I love it. One thing that I think a lot of people don't appreciate is how many really wonderful places there are in this country or world, but to live. I mean, there's no question it's one of the most beautiful places and nice, in the world. However, there are a lot of really nice places, and unless you go away, intentionally sort of want to find out about the rest of the world, you never really know how nice other places can be. So I don't have any regrets at all about leaving.
I think that's something that we really want to let our viewers know, is that California is very popular. LA, San Francisco, very popular, but there's many places across the country that you will be just as happy and not have the issues of overpopulation, of higher cost of living, of all those things.
Yeah, I mean, people are still swarming into California, but to find a happier life. But a lot of people are disillusioned too. They don't always find it. In terms of quality of life, I think you can have equal quality of life in many, many places in this country.
What advice would you give young adults and post-college graduates who may or may not be considering moving out of Southern California as an option?
Go. I'd say there's no harm in going. You can come back. I mean, I'm assuming that most people can come back, unless prices keep going up, and then, it is harder. But I wouldn't let that hold you back. Go and explore. Yeah, I think it's also a question of education, of just learning about all of the wonderful places there are in the world, not just in this country, but just go somewhere.
I am definitely moving out of California now. Listening to her experiences was extremely eye-opening.
Agreed. I think that there are many states that are considered to be financially better to live in than California, like Virginia, for example.
Yeah, Virginia has the lowest unemployment rate of all the states and one of the highest median household incomes. California, on the other hand, is one of the most expensive states to live in. Los Angeles specifically is ranked only 107 out of the 125 best cities to live in that U.S. News examined.
I think now is a great time for a message from our sponsor. So just to reiterate, I think moving out of California should be an option that college students should consider. The cost of living in other states is much lower, which is better for college graduates who are looking to save money while still living a happy life.
Yeah, I agree. It was useful to talk about the cost of housing in California versus other states with Madison and see just how much it actually costs to live here.
And learning about California's population and the minimum wage here compared to other states shows that California is not the only state where you can make a healthy living. Especially with the lower cost of living in other states, the minimum wage elsewhere is really appealing.
I also enjoyed listening to what Jeannie had to say about her experience leaving California. It made me want to learn about new places and see what else is out there. I also never considered that the East Coast would have such a large supply of jobs.
So for all of you out there who are in doubt of moving out, here's a quote from Jeannie Brown.
I think it's really a great opportunity at that time in life to go see the world and learn as much as you can about all of these other wonderful places.
That's all from us here at Educashional. It's been fun
And educational. This is Kim Brown,
Angelia Sheffrey,
And Arggin signing off.
Make sure to check out some of the other podcasts here on Educashional to learn more about finances and how to survive in a world where money controls our lives.
Educashional is a production by College One students at Pasadena City College.